on. First things first, we're just coming out of course, about a month ago here, just ended up in Kansas, Manhattan, Kansas for our annual meeting. We had a great turnout there, great presenters, of course, New World Screwworm. We did do a live and in-person Beyond the Fence Line with Bonnie James. So if you missed that, that's still on our Facebook page, currently getting it worked up onto our YouTube channel. So Monty and I had great conversation of kind of how the next generation is using his platform, the Hot Barn Report, to kind of see what
Mhm.
markets are doing around, not just only in my neck of the woods, of course, I see them, but across country. And then he's gaining more sale barns as we go on, as the day goes on. So be on the watch out for that Hot Barn Report with Monty James, and go ahead and go back and rewatch any of our past conversations. I do have two of our leading board of directors, of course, Justin Tupper and current president, and Whitney Klasna, current vice president, are on. But I just want to say thank you, everyone, again for attending our annual meeting. It really does do appreciate it, and we'll look forward to seeing what we kind of wrapped up, maybe potentially doing some regional meetings that was discussed during the board of directors and membership meeting during that time. So we'll get started today. I have on Erin Yost, aka if say Coach Bergeline. She was my basketball coach back in the
Dating us.
way days. So back when I lived in Kimball, where we spelled coyotes with a K. So if I mess up on any names or anything, that's why phonics was not a thing in Kimball, South Dakota. um, Aaron, course, from my neck of the woods in South Dakota, travels cross country, runs an operation with her family, but also serves as an agent with Farm Credit Services. So, Erin, why don't we get started here, telling us a little bit more about yourself, what your family's up to, and kind of what you do, what regions you serve with Farm Credit Services.
Yeah, Maggie, I appreciate you having me on. It's a pleasure, and I just like you said, my name's Erin Yost. By day, my profession. I work Farm Credit Services of America. I've been in banking for the last 17 plus years, so I guess it's finance has been a passion and an interest of mine since graduating college. So I currently am, like I said, with Farm Credit Services of America. I'm the Developing Market Starting Gate Officer for here in South Dakota, offices west, Pierre and Rapid through the state of South Dakota. I'm pretty excited. This program started July of 2022, and we're solely focused. My job is solely focused on next generation transitional operations, young and beginning. So I take a real, everybody I know has a interest in this segment, but I really take a focus on it, and people in my counterparts in different regions of the Farm Credit Service of America Association also has a officer just like myself. So what we do is we focus on the lending piece for young and beginning producers, as well as we provide different educational workshops, really focusing on the financial acumen, the financial knowledge of our customers, improving that, as well as working one-on-one from a building financials, understanding what financials are doing for your operation, understanding how your business decisions affect your financials. And so we're really not just for the lending piece as far as, but we really try to, work on the other side of the table with producers in my position and say, what, how do I get that edge? And we really see that those individuals and producers that understand their finances, understand the business decisions that affect their finances, we really see that edge or that gap being filled, not only to take advantage of opportunities when they come along, but also be ready for when the downturns happen. And we're in a record cattle market, and it's wonderful, but we all know that we have to prepare for times that maybe margins get tight and so forth. So that's what I do from a career standpoint. When I'm not doing that, my husband and I, Rodney, we're a fourth generation operation on the Broad Axe Ranch in central South Dakota. Our address is Gan Valley, South Dakota. So we have the opportunity to work with his two brothers and his mom Currently cow-calf backgrounding operation, and then my husband and I also have a horsemanship business. I always joke when I say this, it's heavy on the he, light on the we, but I am part of that as well. So we're in the trenches. We're a family operation. We're largely invested in the cattle side. We do have some row crops, but it's strictly to feed our cattle. And probably the greatest thing as part is, we're multi-generational and we have the next generation coming up with our children, nieces, nephews. Um, and so we definitely all work cattle together, plan our projects around when kids are off school, and so yeah, my husband and I have three kids, two daughters, 11 and 5-year-old, and then we recently just had our a baby boy in September. So we stay pretty busy, but we're excited. You know, agriculture's in our blood, and we're just very fortunate that we have the opportunity to do this. So. With that, yeah, I could talk all day about finance and all the things, but if there's something you want me to hit on particularly, ask away.
Yeah, so I guess right now, if we one of us generations either wanting to pull off from our family or looking into like even grow our family operations, what is one thing that what's the first question you would ask us, I guess, in trying to get started into the cow calf operation?
I think you really have to understand, first of all, when I'm talking to the next generation is really, start with the goals. Obviously, a goal isn't anything unless you have a plan to get there, but it's what are your goals and what's your plan to get there and what can we do to help out with that plan. Secondly, it's just really understanding whether it be your family, your business, other opportunities, you know, just to really get a understanding of that because, I think obviously I'm the same way. I mean, I love ranching. I wish I was, I love my job, but I also would, love to be on the ranch a little more as well. But, I think it's understanding our goals and how we're going to get there. So we chose, to have some off-farm income, off-ranch income, and things like that. So just in order to make sure that, we can cash flow as we grow into operations and things. We talk a lot about diversification, and sometimes, this um, off ranch income is a form of diversification to maybe try to build into goals. It's not for everybody and it doesn't have to be. But really, from a lending standpoint, it's understanding really the age and stage of where you are in your journey, what you need to accomplish, and really, sometimes we need to get a little creative and how to reach those goals and how we can help you reach those goals. But really, it's really understanding, where you're headed and getting a plan to how to step into it. Oh, I think you're. Oh,
Maggie, you're on mute. There you go.
My button
yeah,
doesn't
there.
want to unclick here. Sorry about that. What keeps ag lenders up at night right about now?
Obviously we're in a great time in the cattle market and it's exciting from a producer standpoint as well. I mean, we sold cattle on Tuesday and it's exciting. But I will say, when you're in great markets, when you're, finally making some real financial strides, you kind of just wait for the shoe to fall. And I hate to say that because economically, all things says we should be in a strong market for a long time. But keeps you up at night is saying, from a producer standpoint, how are we managing our risk to make sure that, if something comes out or the next big whatever tweet or announcement or wherever it may come, the next big, are we there? Are we positioned to protect our bottom line and really not give back all the profits that, that we can make? And so I really think believe it or not, as financial officers, we're deeply invested in our producers and, we want to see them succeed. And so from a financial officer standpoint, it's, have we had the conversations? Ultimately, it's up to our customers, to pull the trigger as far as what they're going to put into place, from a risk management standpoint, if they do risk management, if they don't. But, are we all on the same page as far as what we need to do to not only secure profit, but also how do we invest our profits back into our operation and make sure that, we take advantage of these solid times in the cattle business and we can make sure that, you know, we we utilize these profits beneficially. Are we investing in something else? Are we reducing debt? What are we doing to make sure that we really get ourselves in a sound position right now when we have these profits and ability to have some cash to get our financials, even stronger. So that's probably what keeps me up at night. Obviously I'd like a strong market and profitability for the next forever, but it's agriculture, it's cyclical. And so, making sure that we're prepared for when that time comes is really important to me.
Yeah. And since you brought up risk management, how important are tools like LRP, forwarding contracts, and diversification when evaluating loan applications?
I put on some educational workshops and I just had this conversation last week. I'm not going to tell you what tool to use or how to use it, but I am going to tell you, when you're building cash flows. So, especially in the young and beginning stage, collateral, capital, we haven't had time to really, what we call build our balance sheets, build our assets and pay down debts and so forth. It takes a lot of, investments to start building our business. And so with that, we really lean hard into two things: character and capacity. Do we have a strong character to say what we're going to do, and do we have the capacity, meaning do we have the cash flow to make our payments and cover our expenses and make our payments, whether it be on a cow loan or whatever it may be. So we really lean hard into those. And I will say when we're developing, obviously a lot of people are like, oh, projections. They're we just do them for the financial officer and we put them in a drawer and check a box. Well, I can tell you right now, if you're really working on your business, if you're really wanting to take that next step, um, projections are very important. Will they be actuals? No, they probably won't. But they start to tell a story when you have your projections and you compare them to your actuals and so forth. And why I get on this tangent is when we're trying to come up with income and so forth, if you have a way to secure price at some way or at least secure a bottom, whether whatever tool you use, LRP or whatever that option looks, it's a lot easier to have those conversations why are we pricing our cattle at XYZ? Well, we have this tool in place. Our LRP guarantee is this or whatnot. So I really think they are strong tools from a cash flow standpoint, from a planning standpoint, but also from a repayment ability. Obviously, we're in record bred cattle markets. To term cattle out and have them paid in 5 years, it's a significant payment. And so we need to make sure that, how do we secure price to make sure that we can make those payments, get them cows paid off and things like that.
Yeah, perfect. One other question, that I was kind of thinking is, I know my family has really strong ties and relationships with a lot of the lenders that we go through. Of course, with Pioneer Bank, we're really good friends with Clay Birkland and everything, and of course, you as well. And um, kind of how would young ranchers think about maybe building that strong banking relationship early in ways?
Yeah, like I said earlier, I talked a lot about the character piece and the ability to, you might not have a loan request or whatnot, but you might be starting to think of when I get to that point and I want to do XYZ, I want to purchase cattle, I want to rent some ground, I want to do something. How do I best prepare myself to be in that position? What do I need to come in to apply for a loan and things like that? So I think, conversation is, sometimes a lost art. And unfortunately, we hide behind a text or whatever. But I think a face-to-face call, a face-to-face conversation with someone that you possibly plan to do business with has a lot of value. They can get you prepared for what you need to think about, what you need to maybe be getting in line when you do have that ability or that option to go and invest in something such as cattle or real estate. And then, I think it's also being open, having those open conversations, building the relationships, but maybe seeing some, with the capital intensive, ag industry, it takes a lot of dollars, especially when you're young and beginning and trying to get in. It's understanding, are there other tools? Are there programs that we can work side by side, whether it be FSA or different, different, is there other programs out there that we can work with a lending institution such as Farm Credit or whatnot to make sure that we can try to bridge those gaps in from the finance piece as well. So I think it's early conversations and maybe often, early and often. Nobody likes a surprise, and if we can really plan ahead and I'm not saying I'm the yes gal for you all the time by any means, but I will be open and honest as far as what we're going to need, how we look at things, how we, things to consider as you're getting started. So I think, yeah, just it never hurts to build relationships, whether it's with your banker, whether it's with anybody, your nutritionist, your marketing firm, accountant, organizations, being involved. You will never, ever, ever be disappointed by building a network, ever.
Yeah, great, great. And I'm glad that you brought up, the fact that um, you guys can build on top of with, USDA programs, because that is a potentially and probably one of, I know our family, my younger brother Taylor, he's used the FSA loans to get some land as a new and
Hmm.
upcoming
Yeah,
rancher
absolutely.
and things like that. And so working with, potential opportunities, we've had Zach Ducheneau on, and he talked about some of the products and programs that USDA is offering too. So hearing that, gaining kind of the potential of other opportunities and ways other than just a straight out loan too will
Hmm.
um, is an option out there. So.
Yeah,
um,
I know I kind of talked when I started about like diversification, off-range income, things to help you meet your goals when you talk about goals and so forth. But I think the big thing that we have to understand is it's really easy to look over the fence or look at your neighbors or look at your peers and be like, well, how are they doing XYZ? And I think a lot of effort and energy is lost there. I think you really have to almost get tunnel vision when it comes to your operation or your goals. And it might not, you might not be able to step into an opportunity as large as you want, but and you don't have to. I think it's all about scaling yourself, growing into that operation or growing into, opportunities. And um, that's really, I think, what you really have to sit down and whether it be a business partner, your spouse, family, is really figure out, yeah, we want to get here, but we need to get here, here, and here before we can do this. And so I think it's not like a all or nothing situation when you're trying to transition either into an operation or start your own. Yep, there's a lot of capital, and sometimes you need to be creative with how you maybe grow into your operation. And so that's the point I was making is um, diversification can help you thinking outside the box, maybe utilizing different value-added programs, whatever it may look like, might have to look a little different to for you to really step into the cattle industry or grow within the cattle industry. So I wouldn't get discouraged, but I'd really stay focused on what your mission and what your goals are, and not get in the weeds about what everybody else is doing.
I know that's always sometimes tough, especially sitting at sale barn conversations around. It's like, oh, this is how I would have done it, and things like
Yeah,
that. So, um,
yeah,
as
coffee
Justin
talk can get
Tucker
you into trouble.
exactly, as Justin Tucker says, sometimes gray-haired syndrome there. But definitely been seeing kind of that younger, our generation kind of stepping up and taking the tolls and kind of just seeing how maybe they could change things, with today's land values with and everything, maybe cutting back and figuring out ways to make it work in their new and upcoming operations. So, um, What is the most common mistake first generation or younger generation producers make when approaching a lender?
I chuckle because we're a generation as well, so we've had to, even though I'm in the profession, there's always things that could have done better from I have a banker too, so there's always things that could have done better on doing that. But I really think, I know it's a lot easier said than done, but that's why, and I'm not saying you have to understand it from the get-go, from understanding your financials, building your balance sheet, cash flows, income, when I talk cash flow, gross income minus gross expenses, and what do I have left to pay my debt payments? I think early on, if you don't know anything about it, it's being having that open conversation with your lender and being like, I need help. I need help building these. I need help understanding, help me walk through this. And pretty soon, the longer you work with them, especially what I do in my program, because I really work one-on-one with producers and like I said, counterparts in different areas do the same, but I think it's really transitioning to learning how to build your balance sheet and your cash flows and understanding what they say to the point where uh when you get to the point your goal should be is when you get into talk with your lender, you're actually driving your conversation. You have a plan and you present the plan. These are my financials. These are this is what happened this last year, and this is my plan going forward. This is what I want to do. This is what my income and expenses say I potentially could do, and this is, this is why I'm looking at XYZ plan. So I think the more you can be in the driver's seat, leading that conversation, owning your financials. I think, it's not, like I said, it's not always probably going to be a yes or a, yep, exactly, go on your way. But your conversations with your lender are going to be a lot richer. You're going to maybe be able to come to a decision a lot faster and move forward with some of these opportunities. Not only on the opportunity side, but even when you have a year that maybe didn't go as planned or something, if you're driving the conversations, if you're recognizing it prior to you going to, create your financials, with your lender, if you have all that done or you have a little piece of it done, I think it says a lot about your A, financial knowledge, and B, your willingness to change, adapt, and stay in the business. So that's what I would say is the more power you can have in your financials and understanding them, I think it's a win-win for everybody.
Perfect, perfect. Um, Anybody else have any questions that they'd like to see answered or um, I guess open up the floor there to Aaron.
Aaron, excellent. I mean, this is really tremendous. And I think just the value of what you provide by having a boot in both worlds, I think is incredible. And always just encourage folks to just, I think it's great that you said, look, I'm keeping a job in town. It's almost like there's a stigma around that. And I hope we keep beating that back because it's at the end of the day, we want to have these, I don't know, vibrant options sounds a little, little too sunshiny. But I mean, just having an operation that pencils, right? And it takes a lot, diversifying these operations. And like I like what you said, it's just diversifying the operation. This, you can have a feed yard or some additional component or in town. And I think this generation's done a good job of kind of lessening that stigma. So I'm my hat tip to you for that. And just some really, really good lines here. I know that Maggie pulls these out and promotes them. I love that, not getting tunnel vision. I think that's, or excuse me, getting tunnel vision. I think it's the way you reverse that was spot on. You need to have tunnel vision. It's so easy to look around that other operation. I think that's really been the telltale sign is to do things slightly differently, right? I mean, it was a traditional cow-calf operation on this side, and just so much of that was just, well, this is what we've just been doing, right? And and diversity used to mean, keeping your wean calves another 30 days, right? And now you're saying, well, I could bring in some short-term cows, or I could calve out these bred heifers and market them as coming threes. And I think this market has actually provided opportunity, right? When you were just sinking in the cattle market, there wasn't a lot of value there, and so now there's actually oddly enough choices and options. So I love what you're saying, but you sit down and come up with those goals, and so and then even just networking, I think that's so key. Where there's so many opportunities out there when you look at that, and maybe it's taking on a silent partner or taking on someone from town that wants to work with you. One of the things that I think is that I wanted to hear you chat about. So again, thank you. This is just outstanding stuff. Um, Farm Credit has that stair stepped program and how you're kind of building up credit, for lack of better phrase. Do you want to talk a little bit about how those programs are and what's evolved there? So they'll give you the point system, or I'm not familiar. Confession, we're with a local ag lender here in town, and but very familiar with Farm Credit and their programs. Do you want to talk just a little bit about how that point system plays out and how you see that as being a strength in the business?
Sure. So I am not, I guess I can probably talk the strongest from what I do and my
Yeah.
customers and how we build into a different relationship. So, obviously all financial officers, it's not like um, they don't have knowledge in young beginning. They absolutely do. But it's really, we have taken, if I joke around that if you're young in the beginning and you want a loan and be left alone, we're not your people from where my
Right.
position. Okay. The ones in the starting gate program that we want to work with are those that are lifetime learners. They want to get better. They want to understand their financials. They're invested in maybe constructive criticism. They're invested in, the network piece. They're invested in seeking in more education and opportunities to really, I mean, obviously, I don't think we can deny the more you do that, the more you're, um, the stronger you are on the financial piece or whatever sector it may be. So I will say, I'm cautious to say, well, we'll do anything. No, but we really lean hard, and I honestly mean it, into the character and the capacity piece from a cash flow standpoint. As in this, as if you're an older generation or you've been in operating longer, we're going to want to see some metrics from an underwriting standpoint. Whether it be collateral and things like that. Working capital, that's a big hot button, current assets, minus current liabilities. But we recognize um, the young and beginning. There's some pieces that, yeah, we hope they build into them, and we always want to, make sure that we're understanding these pieces and they're moving in the right direction. But they're not going to have that from the get-go. So really, what we do is, when we have these producers that are willing, we do have some what we call some different, breeding livestock programs that we work with on the starting gate, that maybe, have some favorable terms from a payment restructure standpoint and so forth. But um, when you work with us, that is something that we have some different maybe type of underwriting standards a little bit because of the age and stage of your operation. So we value when I talk about projections and income and expense and tracking them, we value all that. And so really that's kind of what we um, focus on, and then you transition, as your operation builds, as you've been in with me for 3, 4 years, 2, 3, depending, you'll transition to another financial officer. But you'll be hopefully in the driver's seat as a customer. You'll know your financials. You'll know how to put your projections together, your balance sheets, and those conversations will be a lot richer, like we talked about. So, uh, yeah, I don't know if that really answered your question, but yeah, we do have the ability to maybe look past the traditional types of things we look at, like equity position and collateral and things, and really lean hard into the cash flow piece and the character. Mhm.
Yeah, no, you nailed it. No, thank you so much. And basically, you're incentivizing that added education, because some people
Yeah,
look at that as that's quote unquote waste of time or time away from the ranch, and you're seeing that as an added, and you work to. Yeah, I think it's fair to say incentivize that inside your loan portfolio, and I think Farm Credit's really
yeah,
done a solid job on that, and because it a lot of times it honestly is you're constantly you're weighing the options every time, right? What's my trade-off here? Even just they'll do pieces on like you should take a vacation so you can clear your head, because if you're always just in the grind, fail at that one. But I see that conversation, I see those things, and so even on this one, well, the trade off, well, I'm going to town, and there's a stigma of even going to town. That why are you sitting in on another session? Why would you be wasting your time? And so I appreciate that Farm Credit comes in there and says, hey, we're gonna, we'll give you points, or we'll give you a added bonus for doing that. So I think you it's all about, again, it's that trade-off of time. And so when you incentivize that, and your lenders are saying, hey, this is a good thing, we're glad to see you doing that, that
Mhm.
knowledge, you don't want to learn everything from your banker at the year end when you sit down and say,
No.
well, we missed this, or this objective we had didn't come through. You find that these other sessions, which is why this session here is beyond the fence line. We want to get beyond our own mindset, and you'd rather hear from others, because I can tell you, just from our operation, I want to learn about where others have failed. Right? What were you trying to do where you failed? And we have several this past year that I can say we went for it, and we actually had a really big kind of high level like deal where everyone was talking about, and it failed miserably. And I went and I said, well, why aren't more people talking about that? Well, the stigma. No one wants to come out and say, the problems
Yeah.
with weaning cattle on cover crops. Well, that's a big buzzword right now. And I was like, well, there's a lot of flags out there, right? And I'll be the first one to grab a microphone now and say, hey, be mindful of, there's pros and there's cons, because we are pushing the limit, right? We are trying these cover
Mhm.
crops. We are trying different grazing patterns and strategies. That doesn't mean they're bulletproof at all, And so
Right.
that's where again, I tip my hat to you and others for encouraging folks to go to town and learn that. And I think we need to do a better job. We do well, but tell the times where it didn't work. Everyone wants you to come in there and say, oh, I weaned calves at this weight, and we did this little thing here, and we knocked it out of the ballpark. And I'm the first one to come up, well, I failed here, here, and here. And I love talking to
Yeah.
those that said, I just remember an old timer years ago, he said the most money ever made was off of the most, misfit set of cattle, and they were all over the place. And I got them together, and I made a good load. And I remember this probably the first old timer that everyone else was like, you had to do this, and I'm not taking away from all the high levels. And yes, you need high end genetics. And yes, as we're going to bull, yes, you need all that, but the value you add on your bottom line, those additional value points. And I think that's where you all do a good job. And those are the guys that flat out said, I made the most money off of, improving value on a set of calves. And
Mhm.
it's that happy medium, but we almost like, we're so rattled. And it's a competitive nature, right? We all want to do the best for our calves. And no one wants to say, hey, I tried something, I screwed up, and now I modified it ever so slightly. And so I commend you all there, and would encourage you to keep doing that, because I think that's how we define and build these operations.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. Even from a producer standpoint, now I have my producer hat on, but even from a producer standpoint, we talk in our operation a lot. Um, not everybody's in the day-to-day finances. My mother-in-law does an excellent job on the finances, and my sister-in-law and we fill in when we can, and then obviously I take the lead from developing balance sheets, cash flows, and things. But we all have to, it doesn't have to be your passion, but you all have to come to the table and you talk about it. And I think when we do get to the table or wherever it may be, and we talk about it and we discuss, another turn of calves, or we discuss how our year went and so forth. We'd all love to talk about gross income, but at the end of the day, it's really our net. It's our net margin. What are we, yeah, coffee shop talk is and sale barn talk is what you get for your calves. That's great, but I want to know what it took to get them there. Because I think that's where you really get your edge is in your margins and your net profitability, and so again, it goes back. I know I'm beating the drum, but it goes back to understanding your expense side and understanding your costs, and that's
Mm,
really probably, um, I think we make more mistakes in good years than we do bad, because we get
totally.
a little complacent. We don't maybe track that turn of calves as much, just because how can you not make money, and
Yep.
I get that, but I really think those who stay dialed in, have a solid whatever marketing plan that looks like. I'm not telling you what way to go, but has a solid, consistent marketing plan, has a solid, consistent way of tracking expenses and income. I mean, they might not hit the home run, but singles, doubles, year in and year out, on an average, law of averages look pretty good as well. So I really, yeah, I'm pretty passionate about that, to be honest.
Love it. And I think you hit the nail on the head. To me, it's a constant sprint to first base and pray that you don't get tagged out at first. So I'm not
That's
even trying
right.
for a double or a home run at this point in my life. But yeah, so I think
There's
that's a
no
great
worse feeling
analogy.
from a producer standpoint to make a ton of money one year and give it all back the next. I mean, nobody
Yeah.
wants to do that, and we don't either. And so it's being diligent and making sure we don't get complacent and so forth. And from a professional side, from what I do, and I know, incentivize, but really, what I like to say is if you're willing to make an investment in yourself, from a continuing education standpoint, from working one-on-one, from developing your financials, we're willing to make an investment in you, from whether it be maybe
That's
taking on a little more risk and so forth. But it's twofold. It's gotta go both directions. Hmm.
good on you all. And
Yeah.
I'm dominating, but I just want to say thank you so much, Aaron. And I'll click off now. And excellent, excellent. We got a lot of sound bites to pull out here, Maggie. Good luck with that.
Yeah, it'll be fun getting this out and about. Aaron, you had mentioned earlier that FCS, Farm Credit Services, they offer you guys do workshops and everything. What do those workshops look like? Are there anywhere coming up here? I know you just said you wrapped one up, but any others kind of coming up in the near future potentially for us to be on the looks for?
Yeah, like I said, not to get in the weeds of location stuff, but Farm Credit Services of America, if you are within our footprint, in the different states and whatnot, there is my counterpart is there in some form. So I would challenge you whether you get on the website, talk to your local farm credit office, find out the who is in my place in a different region. And, because workshops, events look a little different. Not different, but, times, places, all that. So I think the best thing is to start a conversation, build a relationship with the farm credit individual, the starting gate officer is what we're called, to get to understand when those workshops and things are taking place. And then we also have some regional conferences, 1.5 day conferences. If you're a customer, you have the ability to register, and if you're not, you have the ability to go on our wait list, and hopefully, if we have more room, that we can get you involved as well. So I check those out. Those are called side-by-side conferences. They're going on right now. Actually, we had one in Iowa. There's going to be one in Sioux Falls next week, North Dakota, one in September. There's one in Deadwood, and so I would challenge you to look for those opportunities as well. But really, from a local standpoint, don't be afraid to reach out to someone in your area and see what opportunities are being provided. So.
Well, perfect. Again, thank you. I have just one more go through my kind of thoughts here as we kind of look forward and move into 2026, kind of unknown on if this market's, going to keep going. I've heard projections that, this time summer video cattle sales start going on. We could see, $6 and up. So definitely potentially still looking good. And I'm me I want to see them good as stay strong, as long as we possibly can. Um, but how do you see ag lending changing over the next 5 years?
Oh, I think maybe ag in general. Obviously my dad was an ag lender, so I've gotten to, he went through the 80s, and so I've got to pull a lot of knowledge from him. But, he made this comment several years ago, and I think it even builds on is, you know, there were days that, corn might move 10 cents in 6 months, or cattle might move $2 in, whatever, a long period of time. And, now we can have $10, $15 hundredweight swings in a moment. And so I think those are some really, I think those will ever still be present is, really large volatile, whether it should happen or not, volatile swings, big swings in the market. I think that's really going to be continually to be managed, probably even more so as the years go on, and then the capital it takes, the expenses to get, you know, um, we might be selling $3,000 eight weights, but how many dollars does it take to get there? And so, if you're purchasing cattle, if you're, for inputs, and so I think the level of credit that is needed currently and will continue to need to be out there is very, very, very large in comparison to what it was. So being able to continue to understand and manage through your finances is I think I don't think that importance is ever going to go away. I think the more dialed in you get, the more opportunities, the more storms you're going to be able to weather. And I just think that we continually need to build on that.
Perfect. Thank you, Erin, so much for being on with us today. I really do appreciate it. Of course, I didn't get to see you while I was down in Rapid City for the stock show, but I know things were going well there, and we'll
Yeah,
see each other down the road as the year goes on. And again, these are recorded, so people can go back and watch them. So
yeah.
thank you again, and we're gonna move on here. And Bull Rep isn't on today, but had something come up.
I'm
So
gonna probably have to jump off here,
no
but
worries.
I do have a workshop later today, so I need to go start making my way towards that. But
All
thanks.
right.
I just want to say what you guys do, what you provide, the opportunities you do to hear from a vast and more majority of speakers. I think it provides a wealth of knowledge. So can hats off to you guys for being proactive instead of reactive, especially when it comes to a young and beginning segment. So thanks again.
Well, thank you again so
Thank,
much, Aaron.
See ya.
thank you, Aaron.
Thank you. We'll see ya.
I do kind of just want to give a quick snapshot of kind of what the bull markets are doing here today. Of course, we're kind of right in the middle of things as we move on. One point I do want to kind of hit on is Red Bluff out of California. They just finished up their sales, averaging, or they had 315 bulls total. That total average was sitting over about 89,000. Angus was bringing in the average bull price was a little over 9,000. Hereford cattle 8,300. Red Angus brought in about the same at 81, Charlet at 75.50, and then Polled Herefords at 67. Gelbies also, they had two there at the sale, and they averaged 13.5. That's just kind of a snapshot at what Red Bluff Bull Sale brought. Of course, also I had mentioned earlier, Black Hills Stock Show just finished up. Let's see, a couple weeks ago here. Um, just kind of looking breed by breed. Angus, they sold 46 head, averaging about 89.30, with the top seller there being at 25,000. The limousine in Maine, 46 head, average of 92. There with the top one bringing 47.65. Charlet's selling 36 head, average of 92.63, with 34,000 with the top selling bull there. I believe that was the Thomas Ranch out of South Dakota. Hats off to Callie Thomas with her work that she's doing, Callie and Bibi, I guess, doing there. The Hereford and Shorthorns, there was 35 there total with an average of 87 there. And then Red Angus and Gelby, they're 21 head with an average of 10,000, with the top selling bull being 41,250. Simmentals wrapping it up at with 44 head, averaging 8,300, with the top seller there being at 27. So just kind of reflect the cattle industry, despite volatility, the interest rates and input costs. Buyers are being aware, and top end bull sales are being hit. Let's see. I think that's all I got today. Thank you guys so much for jumping on. Again, these are recorded. I'll have you have them up as soon as possible. If you have any questions, want to hear more, again, our phone is always open, 406-670-0530, or reach us at Maggie@wssdc.com. Thank you guys, and enjoy the rest of your Thursday and Friday, and have a great weekend. Bye.